This happened 2 years ago. I was a 34-year-old Coast Guard officer stationed in a small Alaskan community. I joined to help with maritime safety. I thought it would be an adventure away from my boring city life. The coastline was beautiful but stark, with jagged cliffs and icy waters. The whole settlement felt isolated, just weathered cabins and one road leading back to the mainland. At first, everything seemed normal. I was patrolling one day, checking for any signs of trouble, when I spotted something unusual on the cliffside. It looked like symbols carved shapes that caught my eye. I thought it was just some kids messing around, but I couldn't ignore the chill that ran down my spine as I got closer. I felt uneasy. They reminded me of the maritime legends my grandmother used to tell me as a kid. Weeks went by, and odd things began to happen. At night, strange lights danced on the horizon. They flickered, making me feel nervous. I didn't tell anyone. I thought they'd laugh. Little things started going missing from our station. Food and gear, just small items at first. I kept double-checking the inventory each day. It made my heart race every time I found something gone. I felt paranoid, like I was losing my grip on reality. Then the dreams started. I woke up feeling cold, like something was watching me. I'd see those symbols in my mind, burned there like a brand. I brushed it off as my mind playing tricks, but how could I ignore the whispers? They seemed to echo through the ice and darkness outside at night. I mentioned it to some locals, but they just went quiet and changed the subject. I sensed they were scared. One old man finally spoke up one evening. He had a wild look in his eyes as he said I should tread lightly along the coast. He talked about a disaster long ago, something that took people away. His story made my skin crawl. The way he described the sea made it sound like a monster, always hungry. That night, I returned to my quarters feeling heavy. I listened to the wind howling outside, longing for the warmth of home. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deep below the waves was stirring. The isolation felt more threatening as the days passed. Then, one night, I heard a voice. It was faint but unmistakable. It called my name. I turned around to look, but nobody was there. I felt the air grow even colder. It was as if the abyss was staring back at me, waiting. The next morning, I found my cabin door open a crack, barely visible. I never left it open. My heart raced. Something was wrong. This town, with its secrets, didn't feel like home anymore. I could feel the weight of the symbols and whispers closing in around me. I didn't know what to do next. The sun rose low over the jagged cliffs, casting long shadows across my cabin. I felt uneasy as I got ready for the day. My mind was still racing from the night before. I decided I couldn't let the fear consume me. I had to find out what was going on. I grabbed my gear and headed outside. I wanted to return to the cliff where I first saw the symbols. Maybe I had missed something. The air felt different, charged with tension. The whispers were still echoing in my mind, and I could swear they were growing louder. The trek over the rocky terrain was difficult. I stumbled and slipped on patches of ice, my nerves fraying more with each step. As I approached the spot, I noticed the symbols were almost glowing now, as if they had absorbed something from the air. I felt compelled to touch them. My fingers brushed against the cold stone, sending a shiver through me. It felt like a warning. I pulled my hand back, half expecting the earth to open up below me. As I stood there, I heard a rustling sound nearby, like something moving through the brush. It caught my attention. My instincts kicked in, and I crouched low, heart racing. I held my breath. It was a seal, tumbling awkwardly onto the rocky beach. But it wasn't just any seal. I had seen many in my patrols, but this one seemed different. Its eyes were dark, almost human, and it stared at me. My stomach twisted. Something wasn't right. That a sudden gust of wind whipped around me, carrying with it an incredible chill. I turned to leave, but felt pulled back, as if my feet were glued to the ground. That's when I saw the shadows behind the cliffs, darker than the rest of the rocky facade. They shifted and moved, coalescing into a darker form. I felt my blood run cold. It was as if the very landscape was alive and watching me. I stumbled away from the cliff, panic rising in my chest. I knew I had to get back to the station. I had to talk to someone who might understand. But when I reached my truck, the cold, heavy air pressed down hard. The engine sputtered. I cursed under my breath, turning the key again and again, desperation growing. Finally, with a roar, the engine kicked to life. I gripped the wheel and drove back, eyes darting around for any signs of movement. My heart raced, not just from fear, but from a sense of urgency. I needed answers. Once at the station, I found my colleague Dave, a weatherman who had been there longer than I had. I poured out everything: the dreams, the symbols, the whispers. His expression went pale as I spoke. I could see he knew more than he was letting on, and that was just as frightening as everything else. I've seen things too, he finally admitted, voice low. Things you wouldn't believe. But we can't talk here. Let's go to the old boathouse. I nodded, heart pounding, and followed him. The wind howled around us, and I felt that familiar chill creep back as we approached the boathouse. Whatever awaited us inside felt more dangerous than anything I had encountered yet. But now, I was committed to uncovering the truth. Little did I know, what we found inside would only deepen my fears and pull me further into a mystery I might not escape from. As we reached the door, I hesitated, sensing the weight of the ocean as secrets pressing down behind me, tightening like a noose. The door creaked as I pushed it open, the sound echoing into the darkness inside the boathouse. My heart thudded in my chest. The air was stale and thick, like it hadn't been disturbed in years. I caught a whiff of salt and something metallic, sharp. I glanced at Dave, his face barely visible in the dim light, and nodded for him to lead the way. As we stepped inside, he pointed to a stack of old crates. "Look here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I followed him, my pulse racing. The wood was weathered and splintered, but there was a sense of urgency in his tone that drew me in. He pried off the top crate with shaking hands. Inside, I found old ropes, fishing nets, and something else. My blood ran cold again. There were strange items mixed among the fishing gear. Odd-shaped stones, shards of glass, and what looked like broken pieces of otherworldly artifacts. Curiously, one item caught my eye. It was a small box, intricately carved with symbols similar to those I had seen on the cliffs. "What is this?" I asked, unable to hide the tremor in my voice. Dave's hands trembled as he took the box, inspecting it closely. "That's what I wanted to show you," he said, his expression grave. "I found it washed up on the beach last month. It felt wrong. I thought it was just debris, but then you started seeing the symbols." Before I could respond, the wind howled outside, causing the old boathouse to shudder. I took a deep breath, sensing that whatever we were uncovering, we were far from the end. As Dave opened the box, a low hum filled the air. The noise seeped into me, vibrating my bones. Inside, nestled against an odd, dark cloth, was a small stone that pulsated with a dim light. It looked alive. "Careful," I shouted, instinctively stepping back. "What is this thing?" "I think it might be the source," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The whispers, they might be linked to it. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped significantly. My breath came out in visible puffs, and I felt fear creeping back in. Shadows from outside flickered across the walls, dancing erratically as if something were trying to break in. Then, I heard a voice, distinct yet echoing, as if it were coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Return what is ours." My skin crawled. I looked at Dave, whose eyes widened in terror. "We need to leave now," he hissed, his earlier bravado replaced with panic. But before we could move, something shifted behind the crates. A shadow emerged, dark and amorphous, swirling with an energy that made my hair stand on end. It moved towards us, taking shape, and I knew we were not alone. "Run," I shouted, adrenaline kicking in. We didn't need to be told twice. We bolted towards the exit, my heart pounding. As the shadow lunged at us, I felt the cold air wrap around my ankles like chains, trying to keep me from escaping. I couldn't let it win. I pushed through the resistance and reached for the door handle. Just before I could fling it open, I turned to Dave. "What is it? What do we wake up?" But before he could answer, the darkness surged and everything went black. When I came to, I was on the floor of the boathouse, disoriented and gasping for air. My eyes were wide, attempting to adjust to the dim light. The shadow, that menacing figure, was gone. I looked around, searching for Dave. Panic gripped me when I didn't see him. "Dave?" I called out, my voice trembling. There was only silence in response. I pushed myself up, feeling the cold wood beneath me. My heart raced as I took in my surroundings, the boxes and crates looming like silent sentinels. "Where are you?" I shouted again, this time louder. Still nothing. I slowly made my way to the door. It was slightly ajar. My instinct screamed at me to get out. Stepping outside, I squinted against the bright sunlight, which felt almost alien after the darkness inside. The world felt too quiet, too still. The wind had died down, and the waves of the ocean lapped softly at the shore. There was no sign of Dave, just the emptiness around me. It was unsettling. My thoughts spiraled. Had the shadow taken him? Was he still inside the boathouse? I needed to find him. I turned back, steeling myself, and headed back inside. The darkness was still thick inside. Dust motes floated in the bits of light breaking through the cracks. I called out again, "Dave." My voice echoed against the walls, returning to me as a whisper. Fighting the urge to bolt, I moved cautiously through the crates. I needed to find out what had happened. Just then, I saw something glimmering near the edge of the room. It was the box the one Dave had found. I knelt beside it, heart racing, and realized it was open. The stone inside lay untouched, still glowing faintly. It seemed almost to hum in response to my presence. Then, I heard something, a faint rustling behind me. My head whipped around, eyes wide. "Dave?" I called, my voice shaky. But when I turned, I froze. The shadow reformed behind me. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over the crates. It was formless and darker than before, swirling with an ominous energy. It hovered in the air, and I felt the chills seep back into my bones. "Leave," it whispered, the voice echoing unnaturally. "Return what is ours." My heart dropped. Was it talking about the stone? I needed to answer. "We didn't take anything. Please." There was no response, just a menacing stillness. I could feel the ground vibrating beneath me. Gathering what little courage I had left, I reached for the stone. Instead of warmth, a sharp pain shot through my fingertips as I grasped it. A vision rushed into my mind, a surge of memories that weren't mine. Flashes of storms, angry waves, and figures lost to the depths. It was too much. I pulled away. Suddenly, the shadows lunged at me, and I knew I had to act fast. I had to make a choice. Would I stay and confront whatever this was, or would I flee? "Dave!" I shouted one last time, hoping against hope, before breaking into a sprint toward the exit. My mind raced. I didn't know what would happen next. As I burst into the light, I felt the weight of the shadows right behind me, almost pulling me back. It was only a matter of seconds before I crossed the threshold. Then everything turned silent again, but I knew the danger was gone. As I looked back, I realized I hadn't seen the last of what lay within those walls. The sun beat down hard, blinding in contrast to the darkness I had just escaped. I took a few unsteady steps, breathing heavily, trying to shake off the remnants of fear. But as I looked out at the ocean, something strange caught my eye. A small boat bobbed in the distance, barely visible against the wide expanse of deep blue that I squinted. My heart raced again, but this time it was a different kind of urgency. What was a boat doing out there? Was it possible that Dave was out there? The thought propelled me into action. I needed to find him to make sure he was safe. Moving toward the water, I shouted, "Dave, are you out there?" My voice felt small against the vastness of the coast. The only answers were the calls of distant seagulls and the rhythmic crashing of the waves. I reached the water's edge. I hesitated. The ocean was deceptively calm, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it held secrets. I turned back to the boathouse, glancing over my shoulder. Was the shadow still there? Was it watching me? Suddenly, I spotted something on the shore, partially hidden by seaweed. I knelt down to investigate. It was a wooden pendant, worn and weathered, intricately carved. My fingers brushed against it as I picked it up. A chill shot through me, as if a current surged from the ocean through the pendant and into my veins, that I glanced back toward the boathouse. That's when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, the shadow flickered at the entrance. My pulse quickened. It had followed me out. I was not free yet. "Dave?" I called again, My voice was less certain now. The silence of the waves felt mocking. I needed to get out of here, but something compelled me to stay. The pendant hung heavy in my hand, like a key or an anchor. Turning, I sprinted towards the edge of the water, ready to call for help again. But then I spotted something glinting beneath the surface just ahead. It was another stone, different from the one in the boathouse, but just as captivating. I felt drawn to it, as if it beckoned me to approach. I stepped closer. The water lapped around my feet, and a voice echoed through my mind. The sea holds truths you don't understand. I stumbled back, heart racing. It was the shadow-esque voice, but it didn't sound like the darkness anymore. It was filled with a promise or a warning. "Who are you?" I shouted. "What do you want?" The water began to churn, and the wind picked up. Panic rose inside me as waves crashed against the shore. But there was no time to dwell. I needed answers, and I needed to find Dave. I had to face whatever was out there. Just then, the pendant in my hand pulsed with warmth, and a sense of determination filled me. I couldn't be afraid. Not now. I turned towards the ocean, ready to step into its depths, when suddenly, the ground shook beneath me. Then everything went dark. The shadows returned in mass, swirling like a storm above. I felt myself getting pulled back toward the boathouse, the feeling of dread enveloping me. My breath hitched as I realized I wasn't just battling the shadow anymore. I was caught between two forces, and I had a decision to make. With a burst of strength, I screamed for Dave, but in my gut, I feared it might be too late. The darkness faded to an eerie twilight, and I stumbled backward as my mind raced. My heart thudded in my chest. "What is happening?" I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. The shadows were swirling closer, but I fought the urge to run. I had to stay strong. I clutched the pendant like a lifeline, its warmth grounding me against the chaos around me. As if in response, a flash of light shot through the darkness, illuminating the coastline for a brief moment. And there, in the shadow of the boathouse, I saw a figure. "Dave?" I called, my voice stronger now. The figure turned, but wasn't Dave. It was a woman, her hair whipping around her face in the gust of wind. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. Her eyes glinted with knowledge, perhaps fear too. "Get away from here," she yelled, her tone urgent. "You can't let it pull you in." "Pull me in?" I echoed, confusion mixing with fear. "Who are you? What do you know about Dave?" "I know what it wants." Her gaze moved to the ocean, where the water churned violently. "It wants you. It wants all of us. You have to leave before it's too late." Before I could respond, the water surged, and a monstrous wave rose up, reflecting the angry twilight sky. My knees buckled as I stumbled back, nearly losing my grip on the pendant. The force of the wave crashed against the shore, soaking my legs and pulling at my footing. I looked back at the woman. "What do you mean?" She shook her head. "The water holds memories. It remembers. It wants to take you to the depths." "Dave!" I yelled, but my voice was swallowed by the roaring ocean. I felt a tremor at my feet, and the shadows around me hissed. But I couldn't leave without knowing if he was safe. I had to find him. "Think," the woman urged. "You have the pendant. It has power. Use it." In that moment, I remembered the faint warmth pulsing from the pendant. I closed my eyes and concentrated. "What do I do?" I whispered to it. The shadows around me grew restless, dark tendrils reaching out and warning. Then, with eerie clarity, a memory flooded back. Dave and I at the water's edge, laughing as we tossed stones into the surf. "Focus on the memory," the woman shouted over the roaring waves. "It can guide you." I took a deep breath, forcing a picture of Dave's smiling face to the forefront of my mind. Suddenly, the pendant glowed fiercely, flooding me with light. The shadows screamed, pulling back as if burned. The woman stared, eyes wide. "Now, go," she yelled. With a surge of panic and determination, I dove toward the water, hoping to pierce through the chaos. But just as I reached the edge of the tide, the water shifted violently again. A dark shape rose beneath the surface, larger and more defined, a threat more tangible than I had ever known. That I froze. There was no turning back, whatever was coming for me was here. My heart raced as I braced myself for what I would face next. Would I uncover more truths, or would I lose everything? The water swelled, and it felt like time stood still. The woman shouted something I couldn't hear. The world around me blurred, and for a moment, all I saw was that dark, looming figure beneath the waves, closing in fast. The dark shape broke the surface, and I gasped, the breath leaving my lungs in a rush. It wasn't just a shadow. It was a creature, twisting and writhing, a swirl of seaweed and foam that pulsed with malevolent energy. My instinct screamed at me to retreat, but the memory of Dave pushed me forward. The woman's urgent voice rang in my ears. Use the pendant. You can't let it take you. I glanced back. The woman stood firm, a beacon of strength against the chaos. Something about her presence gave me a sliver of hope. I clutched the pendant tighter, feeling the heat radiating through my fingers. It was different now, alive and vibrant. As the creature surged closer, I focused on Dave again. His laughter echoed in my mind. I envisioned us on the beach, carefree. I willed that happy moment into the pendant, channeling all my fear and love into it. The glowing intensified, casting an otherworldly light across the churning water. The creature hesitated, the dark waves around it rippling back as if repulsed. It was losing its grip. Now push it away, the woman shouted, her voice cutting through the wind. You have to fight. With all my strength, I raised the pendant above my head. The light exploded outward, a shockwave forcing the creature back. It shrieked, a sound that sent chills down my spine as it writhed against the force. For a moment, I felt like I was winning. But then a new figure emerged from the shadows, another woman, with eyes just as intense. She waded through the water toward the creature, her hair flowing like tendrils of darkness. Stop, she commanded, her voice low and powerful that I froze. Who was she? The air felt thick with tension, and my heart raced. The first woman stepped back, as if recognizing a powerful adversary. I followed her gaze, entranced and fearful. The second woman shot me a glance that felt like ice. You shouldn't be here. You disrupt the balance, she said, her tone chilling. You are drawn to what you should not take. What does that mean? I stammered. My grip on the pendant wavered as doubt crept in. The first woman interjected. Don't listen to her. The water craves you, but that is not how it has to be. You have the power to choose. Suddenly, the waves surged violently again. The creature roared, thrashing about, sending sprays of water in every direction. I felt the grip of fear tightening, combined with the urgency to protect Dave wherever he was. The pendant can change everything. The first woman urged me, a fierce determination in her eyes. But you must act now. Don't let doubt overwhelm you. The water churned, threatening to pull me under. I looked from one woman to the other, feeling the weight of their opposing forces. It was as if they were both part of this world. I stepped into the light and the dark, hope and fear. Then, everything changed. The second woman lunged toward the creature with a roar, and the overwhelming swell of water surged around me, pushing me back. I stumbled, and for a moment, I thought I would be swallowed whole. That when I saw it a glimmer beneath the dark waves. A flash of light, not from the pendant this time, but something deeper. Desperation surged through me, and I reached out toward it. I had to know what it was, but the balance was tipping too far. Would the darkness pull me in before I could grasp that glimmering truth? The moment I reached for the glimmer, a powerful wave crashed over me, pulling me down into the depths. My lungs burned as I fought against the water. I couldn't tell which way was up. My heart raced, fear clawing at me like a ravenous beast. I had to surface, but just as panic threatened to take over, the light became brighter, almost blinding. It wrapped around me, pushing back the darkness that pressed in from all sides. Instinctively, I clutched the pendant closer, its warmth mingling with the light. Then I broke the surface. Gasping for air, I found myself back where I'd started, a few feet from the two women. The first woman was standing tall, ready to face the darkness. But now, There was a change in her expression, caution mixed with urgency. The second woman, however, appeared unfazed and more menacing. Her eyes glinted with a predatory focus. "What did you see?" she hissed, advancing confidently. It was hard to tell if she wanted to intimidate or manipulate me. "I don't know," I stammered, still catching my breath. But there was something there, something calling to me. "The light?" the first woman asked, her voice steady. "It's what you must embrace. It can guide you, but only if you acknowledge its power." "And what if you're wrong?" I shot back, glancing between them. The uncertainty twisted in my gut. What if it leads me to destruction? The second woman laughed softly, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You have a choice, dear. Stay here, drown in your fears, or join me and unlock the true depths of what the water offers." I hesitated. Can I trust her? My gaze flicked back toward the first woman. She was radiating warmth, like a lighthouse in the storm. I felt safer with her. But was safety what I needed? The pendant pulsed, reminding me of Dave and everything I had lost. "What's the secret?" I asked, looking at the second woman. "What lies beneath that I don't understand?" Her smile widened, revealing a strange sense of allure. "Knowledge is power, but only if one is brave enough to claim it. Embrace the depths of the sea, and it will reward you." Just then, the dark shape materialized again, thrashing against the waves. It roared fiercely, as though it resented our presence. I felt the ground beneath me tremble, a warning that something was about to break loose. I tightened my grip on the pendant. "I don't want to disrupt the balance. I just want to find Dave." The first woman stepped forward. "Then you must confront the truth of your heart. Only with that courage can you save him." Before I could respond, the second woman lunged at the first one, their clash causing the water to bubble violently around them. My heart raced as shockwaves rippled in every direction, and in the chaos, I felt the pull of the water again, a familiar sense of urgency mixed with fear. I had to make a choice and fast. The glimmer I saw earlier tugged at my mind. What if I was missing something crucial beneath the surface? In that moment, I realized I could either be swept away by the chaos or dive deep into the truth waiting for me just below the fear and darkness. With every ounce of determination, I prepared to plunge into the unknown. But was I ready for the revelations it would bring? The sound of the collision between the two women reached a deafening peak, and I braced myself as the water surged. It was now or never. The water roared as if in response to my decision. The waves crashed around me, thrashing with a wild intensity. I didn't have time to think. I shoved myself forward, plunging into the deep blue. The moment my body sank beneath the surface, a chill gnawed at me, but I pushed through the cold, trying to focus on the glimmer I had seen. As I descended, the weight of the water pressed against my chest. I fought the urge to panic, wanting to find that light again. In the murky depths, shapes began to shimmer, just beyond my reach. Shadows danced around me like whispers, teasing me with their secrets. Then I spotted a faint glow pulsating faintly in the distance, like a heartbeat calling me closer. I swam toward it, urgency propelling me. Each stroke felt heavier, but I couldn't turn back now. I needed to know what this was. The glow brightened as I approached, revealing extraordinary sights. Through the water, I could see floors of coral glowing in vibrant colors, schools of fish darting around, but none of it registered beyond the tug of the light. It was as if the water itself was trying to tell me something, to share a hidden truth. Suddenly, I noticed a figure, a dark silhouette, hovering near the source of the glow. Panic surged within me. It was hard to tell if it was friend, foe, or something else entirely. The figure shifted, and I caught sight of familiar features. My heart sank. "Dave?" The shadow turned and locked eyes with me. I felt a surge of warmth, a connection that cut through the cold water surrounding us. But as I reached for him, the darkness thickened, pulling me backward. "No, stay away from him," screamed a voice, echoing through the water. It was the first woman, now appearing next to me, her expression filled with desperation. "You're not ready to face this yet." "Ready for what?" I yelled, the words choking in the water. My resolve was fading, and I could feel the depths trying to claim me. "Is he in danger?" She swam closer, urgency written all over her face. The darkness is trying to trap you both. You must resist it. Focus on the light. Just then, the second woman emerged, her eyes flashing with fury. You want truth? Embrace the darkness, not the light. It holds power beyond comprehension. Her voice was all-consuming, dragging me down with her words. I felt my heart race, torn between the comforting glow and the seductive darkness. The water swirled violently around us as the figure of Dave flickered like a dying star. The shadow stretched, reaching toward me, its form shifting and becoming more menacing. I had to choose. In that instant, the pendant around my neck pulsed fiercely, igniting a fire in my chest. I grasped it, letting its warmth guide my thoughts. Then everything went dark. I opened my eyes to find myself floating just beneath the surface, pulsating light still flickering above me. No, a new wave of determination surged. I couldn't lose him. As I kicked back toward the surface, I saw another shape emerge from the depths, a long, tendril-like shadow reaching for me. It was now or never, and I couldn't let fear drown me. I would face whatever lay behind the darkness. But what awaited me was it salvation or destruction? As I broke through the surface, gasping for air, the world around me felt reborn. The tumultuous waves had stilled, the storm inside my heart subsiding just enough to allow clarity to seep in. Above me, the sky transformed, breaking open into brilliant blues and whites against a backdrop of haunting shadows lingering above the water. I scanned desperately for Dave, heart pounding at the sight of shimmering, dread-filled depths. Before I had time to fully catch my breath, the first woman was back at my side, her brow knitted with concern. You must stand firm. The light is your strength, she urged, her presence steadying me. The second woman loomed behind her, a dark silhouette that pulsed with an unsettling energy. I could feel its intent, a hunger that seeped from the water's darkened grasp. Where's Dave? I demanded, voice trembling. What does the sea want from us? The sea holds memories, she replied. It wants to reclaim what it lost. For a moment, I could see Dave, like a flickering flame caught in the storm of presence, just beyond the veil, almost tangible but still so far away. Reclaim? The word echoed in my mind like a haunting music. Reclaim what? Suddenly, the shadow lunged toward me, bringing a low hum that vibrated in my bones, its voice slithering into my thoughts. What is taken must return, it hissed. Sacrifice to the depths, no. We didn't take anything. I shouted, shaking my head. You can't have us. But instinctively, I felt the pull of the depths and allure of dark power, so tantalizing and deep. I knew it would be so easy to give in, to let the waves take me and find out what lay beneath. But I thought of Dave, losing strength each moment he lingered out there. I can't let you take him. In defiance, I tightened my grip on the pendant as its warmth surged again, brighter than before, igniting a fire in the pit of my stomach. I focused all my energy on that light, pushing against the darkness, creeping toward my soul. I choose to save him, whatever it takes. The woman beside me nodded emphatically. Let the light guide you. Face it. With a burst of courage, I dove into the water, searching for that flickering pulse of familiarity. The shadows writhed around me, but my determination flared brighter. Suddenly, I spotted Dave directly before me, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. Hold on. I'm coming, I shouted, propelling myself through the dark water. As I neared him, the shadow surged, thin tendrils stretching ferociously toward me, trying to reclaim its lost prize. Don't look away. Focus. The woman's voice echoed in my mind as I reached for Dave, and our hands locked. In that instant, a wave of powerful energy surged as the pendant pulsed between us. I felt the balance shift, the creature in the water recoiling almost in surprise. Together, I cried, pulling him closer. We could do this. As the darkness snapped and hissed, closing in like a vice, we raised the pendant between us, light radiating outward like a lighthouse guiding lost ships home. The shadows recoiled violently, wailing in a chorus of despair as the light shattered through their malicious grip. But even as the shadows teetered, uncertainty flickered in the depths, an unsettling truth that hinted at a vast, buried history, both mine and Dave's. Faces beneath the surface loomed, lost but lingering ghostly remnants of sailors and treasure, intertwined with what the sea claimed as its own. "Dave," I shouted, pulling him closer, willing the light to keep us safe as we battled against the tide of nostalgia and despair. The water roiled, bending, twisting beneath the friction of light and darkness, and I held on tight, driven by an instinct deeper than fear, an ancient call to protect what I loved. The water surged again, but with a firm grip on Dave's hand and a concentrated will, I pushed through, letting the light envelope us in a dance, threading us through the chaos as we swam toward the surface, every heartbeat thrumming with the rhythm of the pendant. Bursting free from the depths, we emerged back into the bright sunlight. The shoreline grew closer, the beach transformed into a safe haven. I could feel its solid ground beneath my feet, but around us, the world still felt restless, shadows lingering at the bay's edge, like hushed whispers of something unresolved. As we stumbled onto the shore, gasping for air, I turned back, watching as the dark waves licked at the coastline. Is it over? I wondered aloud. Would this battle ever truly end? Little did I know, the haunting secrets of the ocean were merely resting. The darkness might not be defeated, only delayed. Yet in that moment, I held tightly to Dave, feeling the warmth of joy wash over me like the sun on a cold day. We were alive together, and while we still stood at the precipice of a greater unknown, I knew the ocean's call might echo again someday. But for now, I had the power to choose again. What I didn't see was just how much deeper that choice ran beneath layers of time and tide. And that uncertainty lingered like a distant wave, waiting in the depths, just out of reach.